And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode here at 102.5 The Game. Joe Rexrode here. Connor Newt in for Robbie Stanley today. Ian Safar producing. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We have a great show today. We got a lot of people coming on the show today. But Connor Newt, you got your butt up earlier this morning. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm getting there.
Yeah?
I think last night the mistake was, I'm going to stay up and finish this Vanderbilt-Alabama game, and I'll be fine in the morning. And then that was not the case at 4:30 this morning.
I did this. I did the same. Ian, did you also, or did all three of us stay up for this basketball game?
No, I did not.
You're the smart one.
Yeah, I was busy with family stuff, and then halftime saw it was tied, and then I fell asleep.
Yeah.
So on the couch.
Totally understandable.
So yeah, unfortunately, I missed what looks like a really fun game.
Yes, and in fact, we're gonna start right there, which I really hope actually Robbie's listening right now. Hey, Robby, college basketball segment, buddy. Right away. You leave, and we do a college basketball segment immediately, okay? In fact, okay, I have an idea today. Right now I have us down for one college basketball segment. However, I'm going to open it up. Text line, if you would like us to continue to talk about college basketball even after this, you let me know. I'm looking at Titans coach search next, but I'm going to leave this up to the people.
I have the Kentucky poll. Don't worry. They'll call in.
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about your Wildcats. That's a tough one. So before we get into Vandy Bama, real fast. So I certainly they get the big guy back. All of a sudden, their defense looks totally different. They beat St. John's, which as time goes on, beating St. John's looks less and less impressive. But are you worried about this team not making the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I am.
You are.
It's just a testament to the poor roster construction and, quite frankly, the poor coaching job I think Mark Pope has done this year. I really don't understand how we go from last year's coach Mark Pope to this year's. It doesn't make sense to me. And maybe he's in over his head. Maybe the lights are just too bright for him on that job. But I'm worried. I'm worried that this team's just not good enough to make the NCAA tournament.
But, okay, so I hear you. I agree on roster construction. He made some mistakes. It doesn't all fit together.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, man, that's a lot of talent. But the pieces don't fit together especially well. The bright lights, though, I guess I don't understand that. Like, considering how he came out last year.
Yeah.
That 5-out offense looks so good. He was kind of a breath of fresh air. I mean, he knows Kentucky basketball. Obviously, he's won a championship as a player. He handled all that. So why would that be the thing now?
I think what I'm trying to say is there have just been times this season. Last night was an example where he just feels like he's being outcoached. And there are times where some of his rotational guys he puts out there don't quite make sense. Like, I realize he believes this is a deep roster and he goes, 10, 11 guys deep, which is fine. But it doesn't make sense when you have this poor of a roster construction. You don't have many shooters. You don't have a backup point guard. You just got your, I guess, NBA lottery projected center back, and he hasn't played well except for that St. John's game. There's just things he does that I'm like, you didn't do this last year. Why are you doing it this year? So I'm not saying, they should just go ahead and can him right now, because it's not going to happen.
There's some Kentucky fans who do want that to happen, but
there's crazy fans everywhere. But
sure. But BBN's they've got a collection.
Yes.
But okay, so no, I'm with you. I like his honesty, but sometimes I'm like, dude, stop telling us you suck as a coach. Like, it's like, just
we get it.
Suck it up, and yeah. So the game and text hotline, the game text phone line and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. You know what I'm saying. Hit us up on that. I got immediately chased from White Bluff. We can talk hoops the whole show. I mean, my goodness.
we could.
I've got Jeff from Nebraska wants to talk about UConn coming back to beat. He says, can this whole show be – oh, my God. I mean, Titans coach search people, you better step up here, because I'm getting a lot – although I do have like a gif of college basketball. No. Let's get into Vanderbilt, Bama. Fantastic matchup. At times, a fantastic game. Unfortunately, a horrific ref show last night. I just don't understand. I've seen it a million times. Seen a game called one way in the first half of a game, and then it's called differently in the second half. What happens a lot, though, is the game is maybe a game that a lot of physicality is allowed in the first half. And so then you get some of these calls that we saw early in the second half to be like, okay, here, this is the new bar, guys. So let's – and then it kind of evens out. They just called every damn foul in the second half, the whole second half.
Well, that's why the game didn't end till 10:45.
Oh, it's a 2-hour and 40-minute game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But so that ruined the flow, but it doesn't change that it's a huge win for Vanderbilt. I just listened to Tyler Hansbrough on Field of 68 continuing to hate on Vanderbilt. Look, man, it's a real team. Is it a national championship? That's where we are now. It's a team that can win the SEC. I mean, that's one of the biggest games that will happen in the SEC this year.
Yeah.
There's one game against Arkansas too. I think those are the top three teams at this point. I would say probably Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Alabama would be my top three.
Yeah, I think
probably your top contenders. You know, I do still think Florida can put it together.
They've got a big one Saturday against Tennessee, so that should be interesting.
Florida, Tennessee,
Mhm.
yeah. But Vanderbilt, I mean, look, I'm a believer. Am I a believer that they can win it all? I don't know. Am I a believer that this could be the first Final Four team in school history? I think it's possible. Like, you don't want to be the 2 seed. You know, it's like you look at the 1 seed. It's like you don't want to be the 2 seed in Michigan's region. You don't want to be the 2 seed in Arizona's region. Whatever. But I think this team is real and legitimate. And I think Tyler Tanner, who had 29 last night and 7, I think he's one of the best guards in college basketball. Just a tremendous testament to the world. I mean, that's the difference. There's a lot of good players. Mark Byington's added some good pieces. And they've brought some good players back, Tyler Nickel, of course, and McLaughlin. But to me, Tyler Tanner going from solid role player freshman with some promise to how many point guards are better than him in college basketball is really the story if you want to go bottom line on this team.
Yeah, it felt like at times the game flow just moved directly through him. I think Duke Miles complements him perfectly, too. They're just a 1-2 punch.
That's a heck of a backcourt.
Yeah. There are times like Duke Miles kind of took over in the first half, and then it was the Tyler Tanner show in the second half. And look, I understand free throws were part of that. Vanderbilt shot 50 of them last night. Alabama shot like 35. So total ref show for the most part. But it was really a fun game. Like, yeah, I went into this game thinking, well, this could be a game that goes, 110 to 108, because that's the kind of offense I think both of these teams provide. Obviously, it didn't. We got semi-close, 96-90. But you're right, Joe. I think this is one of the bigger games early on in SEC play, and time will tell as far as how this Vanderbilt team can fare in the field of 68. But I could honestly see this being, depending on their draw, a team that makes it to the second weekend.
Yeah, no, I think it should be a second weekend team, in which is no small thing, when it comes to Vanderbilt. Obviously, I mean they haven't had a lot of that. Look, I'm a believer in Ken Pom. Ken Pomeroy. For people who are really into college basketball, I think the analytics side of college basketball is probably. I mean, I feel like that community is like its own counterculture. But Ken Pom is, these predictive metrics mean something.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt, you're talking about the 4th most efficient offense in the country. And Nate Oates said this week, they haven't played anybody great, basically, which Tyler Tanner went on ESPN last night and goes, yeah, we heard that. We heard that and we reacted to it. But, Vanderbilt's schedule, I think, does look better now. I know UCF just lost, but they also just beat Kansas. SMU's a good one. Look, unfortunately, they didn't play as many of these top teams as some of the other teams did.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're talking about 4th in offensive efficiency. And they're 13th in defensive efficiency. It's a good defensive team, too. They're 5th overall in Ken Pom. And that does mean something to me. And last night's win means something. So, we'll see. Like LeBaron Philon missed the last. In fact, I haven't even necessarily heard I mean, it looked like it was just maybe like a hamstring or
I think it was cramps.
Just
Yeah.
cramping. That's crazy that they couldn't figure out the cramps at all to get him back on the floor for that much basketball. But yeah, so that's if you're Bama, you can say, hey, if we had File on, yeah, let's. So Nate Oates, okay, I'm looking at this quote now. He says, "quote I'm not sure I was getting full body cramps after only playing 19 minutes, but that's where we're at." It's like, oh wow. So I guess he's blaming him for his cramps. Nate Oates, man. Nate
It's
Oates
everyone else's fault but
yeah,
mine.
Yeah, exactly. Nate Oates he'll say some stuff. So Bama can point to that, and unfortunately, we won't get a rematch. Well, hopefully, we'll get a rematch when these teams play here in Nashville in the SEC tournament. But they're both, to me, second weekend teams. Bama's still, it's a great program, what Nate Oates has done, and they're a very fun team, and their backcourt is still, when they get them cooking there with Holloway and Oates and Whitesell was hitting shots last night. They're a bona fide team. So it's really exciting. I mean, it's just incredible times in general for Vanderbilt, for the Vanderbilt fan right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the women's team just beat LSU. They're undefeated. They're projected as a 2 seed. The men are projected as a 2 seed. Football just had its greatest season ever. So
the women might have the best player in college basketball. Michaela Blake's is just unbelievable.
No, I mean, she's a legit. That's the thing. Diego Pavia. It's like, this school year athlete of the year at Vanderbilt. You'd be like, duh, the dude who came in second for the Heisman. I don't know.
Yeah,
it might be Michaela Blake's. She might be the national player of the year. It's like she's unfreaking believable.
Yeah.
So, all right. So there's one segment of college basketball. Are you listening, Robbie? I hope so. Chase from White Bluff says, I knew Darius Acuff coming out of IMG was going to be legit. Yes, Acuff is a top 10 pick. And Arkansas is very. I can't wait for Arkansas Vanderbilt. So look, I got more pro college basketball than anti. So as of now, we're going to go into the next segment. We can talk a little bit more college hoops. We are going to get into the Titans coaching search. We've got Adam Sparks going to talk Tennessee portaling later. We've got our normal Charles Robinson at 8, and we have Andrew Burnett, Predators head coach, at 7:30 coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode 125. The game. Connor Newt in for Robby. Let's just go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com. Let's see. Liam McLeod. Yes, go Joe, go! Basketball for the win. I'm just trying to make the people happy. I just want to make the people happy. I don't know what to tell you. Jeff from Nebraska says, which does Robby hate more, college basketball, Marcus Mariota, or Matt LaFleur?
Why does he hate Marcus? I know the other two.
I think, and now during this time, Robby and I weren't doing the show. It's been 6 years now, basically 6 years ago that we started doing this. When we started filling in January of 20. So at that point, Marcus was gone. So I was around Robby a decent amount at Preds stuff. He's just one of those. I think he just always thought he sucked.
Yeah.
But now I feel like in retrospect, he's even made him in his mind worse than he was. It's like, dude, I mean, Mariota did throw for 3,500, 26 TDs, 9 picks, looked like a really a promising young quarterback coming up in 2016. Whether you want to admit that or not, before he broke his leg at the end of that season at Jacksonville, I would have told you, not that he's going to be a top 5 QB, but he's going to get a second deal. He's going to be the guy here forever, not forever, for a long time. It didn't work out that way. But yes, Robby, I think, was just one of those, and it was in this town very split. And when it comes to Marcus, right? It was right. There were some people who probably hung on too long to the hope with him, and definitely some people who were kind of out on him, all along. But again, early in his tenure, I think Marcus showed a lot of promise, and Robby just always was down on him,
revisionist Robby.
But to answer your question, there you go, or Robby, as I call him going into the break, Robby,
Robby and Rexrode.
Boy, he's really glad he's missing out on this show today. It's all college basketball and calling him Robby. But to answer your question, Jeff from Nebraska, I think Matt LaFleur is clearly the answer.
Yes.
Matt LaFleur is clearly the answer.
Although Shane Beamer's on that list too.
That is true. Beamer and Drinkwitz too.
Yeah.
Drinkwitz, those guys would be right there. But I would say LaFleur.
And David Legwan. Yeah. He does not like David Legwan. I've been told that.
Okay.
He's told me that.
I guess I didn't realize that. Ed wants a whole segment on Big East basketball from the 80s. I tell you what, Ed, Sherman Douglas, man. Sherman Douglas and Syracuse, Georgetown. I mean, those games, it's sad what has happened in some of these rivalries in college where people don't know. Syracuse, Georgetown, John Thompson, Jim Boeheim. I mean, twice a year. Absolutely can't miss. Stevie Thompson, Sherman Douglas, Billy, oh my gosh, who the heck was there? Awesome. Someone help me out. Text line, I know you're going to pick me up. Billy, Sherman Douglas, Stevie Thompson. They had Ronnie Cycli. They had Derek Coleman. But who the heck was the big guard? And I'm looking at you, Connor.
Yeah.
You're like, it was so long before you were conceived. There's no point in, my God, this is going to bother me. I can't move on in this show until I figure this out. But yes, Ed, Big East basketball in the 80s was absolutely incredible. Billy Owens? Yeah, Billy Owens. Thank you.
I think that's what it is. Billy Owens.
That would have really freaking bothered me. Woo! Billy Owens. All right. Okay. Well, we can always do more of this, guys. We can always do more basketball. I think Vanderbilt is for real. Any other quick basketball takes that you have before we move on to the Titans coaching search?
I like Sparty. I like your Sparties. They look good.
You like Sparty?
I like Sparty.
Sparty's pretty good. Yeah, they're a good team. I have a child.
Nebraska's for real though. I do like I know that's their Big Ten loss, but
Nebraska ball, baby. Nebraska ball. The only Power 4 program that has not won an NCAA tournament game. They're 15-0. They just won at Ohio State. They just beat Michigan State. They won at Illinois. I tell you what, man, they are going to get a win this year in the NCAA tournament. It's got to happen. I'm sorry. We have Mike from Gallatin. Did I say that right? On the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com, wants to talk college basketball. Mike, what's up?
What's up, Joe? Hey, I'm petitioning to see how long you can continue to keep talking basketball. At the game itself, last night, man, the atmosphere was absolutely crazy. It's exciting that Vanderbilt sports actually has something to, like a season to actually get really hyped up about the whole entire athletics program as a whole. I think Candace Story-Lee has a lot that she can be happy about right now, which is just a refreshing thing to see. I got a quick comment. So I called in the other day after Vanderbilt beat LSU, and I mentioned that Kim Mulkey's breakdown on the sidelines over the little missed foot call there down the stretch was maybe one of my favorite, just like complete overreactions by a coach. I mean, yes, it was a bad call that they missed, but at the same time, I guess her being so animated was so funny to watch. Nate Oates going nuts on the sidelines of his text that he got. We missed. There was a lot going on. We wasn't entirely sure if we saw what he was going nuts over, but he was so close to getting a double tech that he's getting right up there too about becoming one of those coaches that if we can keep our momentum going, we can use his words that he used in his little press conference about us not playing anybody to continue to fuel this team. So I'm extremely excited just to continue to see how far this season can go. My quick question for you is how many more wins and big things is going to take for Robby to make you have to do a whole show on basketball? Because it's coming down that stretch for sure.
Thank you, Mike. Well, the whole show on basketball. My goodness, in March, it's hard. We get a few we get a few segments in March. Now, we have not had a Vanderbilt team like this. We've had some really good Tennessee teams, and of course, he's a Tennessee fan. So, I mean, it's going to be a battle. I will continue to fight the good fight. It's way easier when he's not here.
I'll join you in the fight.
Yes, that's right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I do have a texter who says Vandy matches up well against a team like Bama, but when they go against a team with big men, they will get killed in the paint. Yeah, I saw Tyler Hansbrough saying last night. I mean, I guess I'd like maybe one more big on this team if you wanted to have a perfect roster. But I mean, Washington, Jalen Washington is a big. I mean,
yeah.
Okereke is a guy, McLaughlin a little undersized, but he can get in there and get rebounds. He had 10 and 12 last night. So I don't think that they're not like some smallish Smurf team out there. There are some front lines in college, like the matchup with Michigan.
Yeah.
That would, Michigan goes like 6'9", 6'9", 7'3",
and they can all shoot
at the 3, 4, 5. Yeah, but it's a tough matchup for anybody. So, I don't know that I necessarily buy that.
It depends on the defensive scheme, I think. Like, if they're running a 2-3 zone, then, yeah, probably. But I think Vanderbilt shoots the 3 ball well enough to where they can avoid that. They can swing it around outside the top of the key and find the open 3 and get there. But maybe inside, I think he's talking like post versus post maybe. But I think their guards are capable enough of getting inside and scoring easy layups as well. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some good length. They are, Tanner and Miles are not big, but they've got some good size elsewhere with like nickel. You obviously bring Bing off the bench. Harris has some good size, and they got good depth. I mean, look, it's a really good basketball team. It's amazing what Mark Byington's done. He's the favorite for National Coach of the Year. And to Mike's point, you got Kim Mulkey coming in here, who, of course, she's freaking out like she always does at everything that goes wrong. Then she also says after the game she doesn't understand how she couldn't, get a review. It's like you can't review a non-call. They missed a call. Michaela Blake's foot was out. They should have called it, but they missed it. You don't know Kim Mulkey after half a century as a coach that you can't review that? What? Meanwhile, then you get to Nate Oates. Texter says Nate Oates is a used car salesman, good coach, but slimy. There's some people who don't like Nate Oates for sure. And yeah, that was weird what he said the other day. I'm like, why are you giving fuel to this team that's about to play you at home? I mean, again, he's not totally wrong. Like, they didn't play the greatest non-league schedule. I would have loved to have seen them against a couple other of these, Power 4 teams in other leagues. But it was, you look at their strength of schedule and everything. I mean, it's pretty good. And, in fact, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. I mean, their strength of schedule is 54. I mean, it's not bad. They've played a lot of solid teams and they're legit. And look at this with 2 segments and we talk about nothing but college basketball. Truly amazing. Okay. We will Talk Titans coaching search next. Robby and Rex Show, 102.5 The Game. Apologies to Liam McLeod. He says, don't do it, Joe. I'm going back to sleep if we're doing Titans talk. And I said, just leave the radio on if you're going to do that, Liam, while you snooze. But we are going to get into the Titans here. Robby and Rex Show 125 The Game. So Connor Newt, I don't know the answer to this question. I'm sure you've said it on the air many times.
Yeah.
And I probably heard it, and then I probably just forgot. Who is your, if you have, we'll take John Harbaugh out of it.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh,
Well, he's not my number one anyway.
You wouldn't take John Harbaugh number
Oh,
one?
absolutely. I would.
Okay.
I just don't think it's a realistic possibility.
Okay. So he's out of the equation. Who's your, if you were the Titans and you had your choice, it'd be who?
I'm a Robert Saleh guy.
Okay. So am I.
I'm a fan of the intensity he brings. I think he would provide a next level coaching to this defense that they've never seen before. The thing with Robert Saleh is I think you got to get the staff right. And that's the key for every coach
Sure.
that comes in here, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You've got to get a coordinator in here that is capable of developing Cam Ward and capable of taking this offense and making it something productive. Whether that's someone you interview in the head coaching process, like let's say, oh, we're going to hire Robert Saleh as the head coach, but Matt Nagy is going to be the offensive coordinator of this team. I would be heavily in favor of that. But as far as who do I want to be the next head coach, I think it's Robert Saleh.
Okay, well that is an interesting question then, because I'm with you. I like Saleh. I think there's a little bit of there's a lot of stuff that happened with the Jets. Most of it's just stuff that happens with the Jets, but he didn't handle everything well. So you hope he's learned from that. There's a little bit of, I'd say, concern there, but I'm with you now. The coordinator's huge. So, like Robby, ranted yesterday about them interviewing Cliff Kingsbury, which I understand. I agree. I would not want him as my head coach. However, as PK pointed out yesterday, let's go back to when they interviewed Matt LaFleur and they interviewed Mike Vrabel and some other people, and then they said, then Vrabel struck out on his OC candidates, which I had forgotten totally that Nagy was the second choice. I remember Ryan Day. He went after Ryan Day because Ryan Day was just an assistant at Ohio State under Urban Meyer,
right?
And didn't get him. And then apparently it was Nagy. And then John Robinson's like, "What about this LaFleur?" And it worked out fine. Worked out great for LaFleur. He got the Packers job next, but could be an outcome with Cliff Kingsbury. So if it's Saleh, I mean, he's still going to have a DC, but especially the OC. Who would your OC of choice be to pair with him? Because we talked in the season a lot about what about Saleh, McDaniel? How fun could that be? But apparently McDaniel's keeping his job. I guess is Tampa Bay getting Harbaugh because all of a sudden is that what's going on there? I don't know.
I feel like he's going to go to New York. Because they're going to give him everything he wants. You get full roster control. We'll give you X amount for your salary and what have you. But as far as who I think should be coordinators here, I think I really like Matt Nagy. I feel like he's going to be involved in some level here, whether that's head coach or offensive coordinator. I think that could be a good pairing with him and Robert Saleh.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. As far as coordinator, I think you can do the next up-and-coming guy, not similar to head coach. You need experience in this head coaching hire, I feel like, because the last guy you brought in that was supposed to be the next big thing was, in fact, not the next big thing.
Yeah, but you could still make – but does that mean you're not going to choose well doing the same thing like Jacksonville just did?
Right. No, you're not going to hit every time. That's just how it is. But I like Matt Nagy. I think that's a good pairing with Robert Saleh. I'm trying to think of guys that are currently coordinating for other teams.
Yeah, I mean, again, Kingsbury.
Yeah,
is certainly I think a guy.
Ryan Daboll.
Yeah, someone on the text line, Matthew Jolton said he wants Daboll or Kingsbury because I don't think Kingsbury is going to get ahead. I think there's plenty of warranted skepticism about Kingsbury as a head coach. And so I feel like I don't know what else he has lined up for interviews, but I feel like some of these interviews for head coaching jobs are also kind of like, okay, but you could be our OC maybe. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Is it fair to see who Saleh had as OC with the Jets and kind of look at that as possible people to bring on the staff?
Do you remember who it was? Because
I mean, looking at it, it says he had
Hackett, wasn't it?
It was Mike LaFleur and Hackett.
Yeah, that's right. He did have Mike LaFleur.
And then apparently it says here Downing at some point took over before they all got fired.
Yeah, that's true too.
So I'm not sure I love that. Ooh. If you want to bring those guys as like your offensive guys.
Come on back, Todd Downing.
Maybe Mike LaFleur,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where he is right now. But Hackett and Downing definitely not gonna fly.
No, those would not be exciting. Yeah, I mean, Mike LaFleur is OC the Rams. So that is, and look, that's what happened with Matt LaFleur, right? Matt LaFleur was a non-play calling OC. He's like, yes, I want to do the play calling thing, and then that'll help me get So he did. He came again. He did okay. Got the Packers job. Has worked out pretty well, unless you ask Robbie Stanley. But it's worked out pretty well. I mean, I got to say, man, Malik Willis. Watching him here and then watching him there, there's no way that you can't give credit to Matt LaFleur for what he's done there. And then overall. But yeah, so Mike LaFleur would be the same situation. Anybody who's the OC of the Rams, as we all know, is not calling plays. Sean McVay is a human computer. So yeah, that's not that's not the craziest idea. And those guys are part of basically the same tree.
Yeah,
too.
like Mike LaFleur wouldn't be the craziest.
No.
To have him as an OC, see how he does calling plays after a year with McVay, with the Rams, kind of rehabilitate yourself almost in a way after being with the Jets and that debacle.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I do like Kingsbury. I like as an OC. I like
as a coordinator. Yeah,
would he do that? Why would he leave Washington to move here as an OC?
He got fired.
He got fired, or was it like a mutual parting of like letting go of the contracts?
No, I think he got fired, didn't he? I mean,
both.
This is one of those things where
didn't both the coordinators there get fired?
Yeah,
in Washington, so they just clean slate with both the coordinators.
Yeah, he got fired. And look, I mean, so he'll take an OC job. I don't think he's getting maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll get a head coaching job and blow somebody away in the interview process. But considering what happened in Arizona, I think he's going to have to be somebody's OC. And look, I think he got unfairly blamed this year. I'm sorry, but so this is
too many injuries.
It's amazing how these things happen. It's like, okay, guys, so we all watched last year. Jaden Daniels was the story of the league, and the offense immediately it worked perfectly. I think he did a great job around Jaden Daniels. This year he's hurt. He's got Marcus out there. Speaking of Marcus Mariota, it's a Marcus Mariota show today. And so, again, there's always things that you don't know behind the scenes, but it seems so obvious that, why would you scapegoat this guy when you saw how well he did his job when your quarterback was healthy last year,
Yeah. I don't like him as a head coaching candidate, but I agree with you. I think he's one of those he's just a better coordinator than he is a head coach. I like Monken as a OC opportunity. I don't know. He might follow Harbaugh wherever he goes, which I think would probably be your best bet. I do find it interesting that Harbaugh is interviewing next week because some of these jobs may be opening based on who wins and who loses in the playoff.
That was an interesting report. He's not going to interview until next week for any jobs.
Yeah, and he can kind of do what he wants. As someone texted, the expectation of some people is he's waiting on Buffalo and waiting to see what happens. And if they lose to the Jags, is McDermott done? I think it's possible. I mean, people are going to say Josh Allen will never get it done. Well, Josh Allen's going to get more cracks at it, but it might be time. Okay, how about a different coach?
Yeah,
and I'd be pretty excited if I was Buffalo about the idea of Harbaugh and Monken getting a shot at Josh Allen. I mean, there's definitely some commonalities there between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. So. So that is interesting. Yeah, like Trevor said, could be the Packers too, potentially. Robby does not think that's happening, and Robby pays very close attention to the idea of Matt LaFleur being fired. But certainly the Bills, I think, is possible. One thing you mentioned, Connor, about Harbaugh, and I've seen this out there a lot. Like if the Titans throw the world at Harbaugh, give him whatever, all the money, but also control. Are we sure he wants roster control? Because some coaches don't, and it worked incredibly well for him to not have it, to have a really good GM. I mean, their front office with Baltimore, Ozzie Newsome to Eric DeCosta, it's been incredibly effective. Now, maybe getting away from that, he's like, okay, now I've learned a lot from those guys. I would like to, but I don't know. I guess. It is possible, right? That some coaches are like, I actually just want to do my job really well, and I will have input, of course, and I'll have a say, but I'm not final say guy.
Yeah, I think it's appealing from the aspect that he can take a team like the Giants or the Dolphins or someone like that that's on the lower echelon of NFL teams, bring in whoever the hell he wants, and then they're title contenders the next year. I think that would be intriguing to him. I'm not saying that's going to make or break whether or not you hire him, because I don't know what's going through his mind. I don't know what's happening in those conversations, but I just feel like John Harbaugh's always been the coach of a team that's been relatively competitive. Whether you go back to the Flacco and D-Mace days, or even now you got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, he's always had pieces that I think are able to make them a competitive team in the AFC. So I think the idea of him going to a lesser team for more money and more power would be intriguing to him.
Yeah, yeah, as long as he sees the pathway.
Right.
You know, that's the thing, right? Like you got to see the path, and sometimes, a lot of times, it comes down to like what's the quarterback situation. Either they have a quarterback I believe in that can do it, or like the Raiders, you know, they have the number 1 pick, and I think Mendoza is going to be amazing. I think there's going to be a fair amount of skepticism about Mendoza. Mendoza is a good prospect. I think he could be, but number 1 overall pick, he's not a vintage number 1 overall pick at quarterback, right? Just like Cam Ward wasn't a year ago. Someone throwing out there Bobby Slowick as the OC. You know, obviously he and Salah have a history. He is a senior passing game coordinator for the Dolphins. So there's another guy who, I don't know, he was the toast of the league 2 years ago. And last year he's scapegoated. And, you know, again, I don't know everything that happened, but it's crazy to think that guy probably could have had a head coaching job, stays on with the Texans, and then gets blamed for everything when injuries were definitely a part of that too. But yeah, I suppose he'd be another possibility as OC if it is Salah. All right, we come back. Best and worst in sports. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst. You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go. And it is that time of week again. Best and worst in sports here on Robby Rexrode. So Robby always lets me go first, which I really appreciate, and I usually just take the low-hanging fruit, the obvious one, because I don't have any independent thoughts of my own, and it makes it very easy for me. But I think today, since I'm on microphone one, I'm going to let you guys go first. So, Connor Newt, you start us off, your best and worst in sports.
Well, I appreciate the generosity, Joe Rexrode. The best in sports to me is, I think, just the overall recruiting of Lane Kiffin at LSU. I find it absolutely hilarious that he's not able to retain anyone from Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss says he's coming back pending his extra year of eligibility. Now, Kejuan Lacey, the running back, says he's coming back to Ole Miss. I just find it absolutely hysterical. The plan that Lane Kiffin had heading into LSU, thinking this team is not going to go very far in the playoff. They're all going to come to Baton Rouge. We're going to run it back with this team in purple and gold. And then they go to the semifinals and they just say, well, we believe in Pete Golding. We're going to come back. We're not playing for you. I just find it hilarious. And he can't really grab anyone in the portal. Everyone is seeing through his BS. So that's the best, maybe the worst for some, but that's the best in sports for me. The worst for me has to be the ending, and we're delving back into college basketball talk, so text line rejoice. The ending to the Auburn-Texas A&M game from the other day. If you didn't see it, Auburn hit a shot from half court basically to win the game. They ruled it. It was a good shot. Then they go to the review. The ball was clearly out of his hands with a tenth of a second remaining, and they say no good. Texas A&M gets the win at Auburn. So I thought that was kind of ridiculous. I think not that it's going to do much. Auburn should send an appeal to the SEC or the NCAA and say, this is what we see. We have video evidence to back it up. It's not going to do anything, obviously, but they can at least get some closure. So that's my worst.
That was a tough one. That was a tough one for War Eagle. Yeah.
Well, to piggyback off that, Newt kind of stole mine there. My best and worst. Have you heard the radio call from the Auburn game?
No.
Down 2 Auburn ball, 0.6 seconds to go. 3/4 of the court to go. Freeman will trigger for the Tigers.
Run a wheel, kind of gets everybody in motion.
Throws to midcourt.
Got a shot at it.
3 to win it.
Yes. Yes.
Auburn
Yes.
wins. Auburn wins.
Yes.
Murphy hit
Yes.
the 3. The Tigers
Yes.
win.
Yes.
The Tigers win. Unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness.
Murphy.
Oh, my goodness.
From just inside.
Oh, my goodness.
Knocked it home.
What a
The
shot.
Tigers win.
What a
The
shot.
Tigers win. Unbelievable.
Magnificent. Murphy comes through.
Murphy caught it and shot it. A 3-pointer to win it. Unbelievable.
Way to go. What a play. Great strategic play for the coaches. Drew it up, and Murphy wears it from the midcourt line.
All right, let me say this. They are going to review to make sure 2 things. 1, that he got rid of the ball in time, and 2, to make sure that there's no time left. Holy cow.
And it went on, of course, once they realized it was
Do you
not
have the reaction to the
I don't, not
Okay,
right now.
okay.
I
mean, my gosh.
but
Boy, he hammered some of the same comments over and over.
so I thought the combination.
So wait, is that your best or that's both?
That's a
Okay,
double whammy.
I like that.
I'm doing both. Like the call, everything got ruined. It was just the whole situation.
We tag team that. I unintentionally stole it from you. I
No,
apologize.
all good. I heard that call earlier this week and the other night. I thought that was pretty good.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Okay, well, my best is Vanderbilt. Both basketball teams. Earlier this year, there was both coaches were kind of asking for more fan support. And, again, I get it, but also like there weren't great games there. And people didn't know how good these teams were. I think Vanderbilt fans have to condition themselves. Also, Vanderbilt fans, like, I'm not used to like being this locked in on football this long. It's like all these things that are changing. But you saw the atmospheres in these two games, huge wins over LSU and Alabama. Teams that are right now projected as number 2 seeds. That means like teams that you have to consider contenders, like national contenders. So that's an easy best. My worst, actually, I was going to do an offshoot of you and Lane, but I'm going to talk a little bit about him and other things at 7:45. You know what? I'm going to switch my worst to this text from James, who says, quote, I don't know if you guys are aware, but nowadays all sports are rigged due to sports betting. The proof is in the pudding, end quote. And, I think I have valid concerns. We know players this is happening. There's a lot of it out there. We also know more because of the way sports betting is, and I'm concerned about officials. But if you actually think sports are quote unquote rigged due to sports betting, you have to be one of the dumbest people on earth. Like seriously. And if that's the case, like you should never watch sports anymore. Like if you don't think that these are actual games being played, why would you ever watch it?
How do you find enjoyment in that?
I would never watch it again because, sorry, and I don't mean to rip on pro wrestling. Some people love it. That's fine.
I do.
Great. It's your entertainment, but you know what it is.
Right.
Yeah. So if that's what I thought this was, I'm out, like I will watch Stranger Things, which, by the way, I still haven't seen the finale. Yeah. So no, they're not all rigged due to sports betting. Now, there is stuff that you have to be concerned about with sports betting, but actually all this stuff being above ground now where we're all monitoring everything actually makes it less likely, James, if you actually think about it. So thank you for giving me a worst in sports. I very much appreciate it. Jared from Spring Hill says, best Missouri basketball winning for the first time in Rupp. I didn't realize that was their first win ever in Rupp.
I learned that last night.
Wow. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they've played there that much anyway because
they're relatively new to the SEC.
Yeah. And worst is Tyler Loop missing that kick. If you're a Ravens fan, that is tough. Ron, here's a best for me. Ron says, good morning, Joe. Listening to you guys all the way in Cairo, Egypt. It's 2:54 p.m. Wow. That's fantastic, Ron. And I've been to Cairo, by the way. Great city. Enjoy it, Ron. I'm sure you're going to see the pyramids and the Sphinx. All amazing stuff. Best from Matthew from Jolton. Titan season's over. We've seen gradual improvement for Cam and the college football playoff. Worst, somehow Kalen DeBoer still has his job. I figured Tide fans would have run him out of town. Boy, Kalen DeBoer, it's a big year. It is a big year next year for Kalen DeBoer.
Absolutely.
Without question. On the college football front, we are next going to talk to Adam Sparks from Knoxville News Sentinel. Tennessee Vols maybe closing in on a quarterback who I like a lot for 2026. We'll talk to him about that and more. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. And second hour here, Robby and Rexrode 102.5 The Game. Connor Newt in for Robby on a college basketball extravaganza episode of Robby and Rexrode, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are going to transition to college football now with our good friend Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Adam, I know there's really no off season anymore when you're covering a college football team, but how would you compare, this stretch here as you've got the Vols in the portal and people are mad about them not getting this guy and not getting that guy, and Danny White's out there tweeting at people? I mean, what can you tell us about covering this beat right now and where the Vols are in the portal?
There's a pretty high anxiety level. I would just say it's with the fan base, because I don't sense as much of that in the football facility. But then, when you see Danny White tweeting, where it looks like it's sort of hitting a nerve when he was pulled into the blame for the transfer portal inactivity, you think, well, maybe it's in there too. It's just here's what I tell people, and I've reminded myself of this every year. Tennessee is usually the most inactive team in the portal each of the past 3 or 4 years. Under Josh Heupel, a lot of teams get 20 to 30 guys. Josh Heupel usually gets like 8 to 10. And so I think they hope to get a little more than that this year. But that means they're going to get fewer guys on the front end, and they may get fewer guys on the back end. They're just not going to pull in as many guys as others do. And that's a roster building philosophy of Josh Heupel. He wants to lean a lot on high school kids still and developing them and seeing who pans out, and then just cutting loose the ones that don't. That's another reason why you see, a number of guys that are like second year guys that are hopping in the portal, and you thought, I never even saw him play much. Well, that's why. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's what's going on a lot with the roster. Number two, I think this is really hard to do, but we almost have to treat this like it's a signing day. When you get to the end of the portal, get the ledger and say, on the left, here are the players they lost. On the right, here are the players they gained, and then judge it from there. I think judging it minute by minute it's rough. I tweeted the other night, Tennessee had lost 20 scholarship guys and gained 2. And, you should look at it during it, but I think you just can't freak out until the end. Tennessee's got more guys on campus now. They're trying to line up some visits with other guys over the weekend. And, they've got a lot of holes to fill, but they still have some time. And new guys are jumping in the portal. And that's what I think people forget, is that new guys are coming onto the market each day.
Yeah. No question. I do. And I hear you totally on Heupel's philosophy. I did think that maybe I guess I thought maybe it would change a little this year, given, the urgency of next season for him, frankly. And just, the fact that it just seems like, as we look at these teams who have advanced, it's different. Like Ole Miss is super portal heavy. We know the teams like Florida State that have just gone total portal. It has not worked out. I don't think it's sustainable, but also the teams that are doing really well seem to have a pretty good balance of it. So a couple questions for you on that. One, I do see Tennessee fans complain, like, do they have the money? Is there some financial, because when this guy goes here instead of Tennessee, or, whatever, goes there instead of Tennessee, that's a common question. Do you feel, so I'm assuming they're fine when it comes to money, but I just want to ask you that question. And also, Jordan Ross is the one it's hard for me to understand that, given the opportunity on his side, and also just for Tennessee needing some continuity and some players returning. What is your thought on him getting in there?
Well, first off, on the money part, yeah, I think they have the money. I think there's one thing that has hurt them more than any. It's that they're slow. This has always been the thing with Josh Heupel on the portal. You can say he's methodical, deliberate, patient, whatever, but they're slow. A lot of the guys that they have targeted and missed on are guys that never got to campus. they're the fourth or fifth visit of a guy lined up rather than the first. And so a lot of these guys never even get to campus. I think there's some of that they need to, I know they've already evaluated in past years and not changed it. I think Tennessee is less eager to get into the gray area of this era and these rules than other teams are. You could say that's from the Jeremy Pruitt era. They're a little more careful than others. You could say that's Danny White wanting to, follow every rule to the T. There's a lot of things you could say about that, but I do think they are less eager to get into the gray area of things. In other words, Indiana already signed a bunch of guys, and they had just a slew of visitors right after the portal opened. And, I have a hard time believing that team and a lot of other schools, were booking flights at 12:01 a.m. when the portal opened. They had those lined up beforehand. They were contacted. Most schools do that. I don't think Tennessee does that as much as others. And so that's made them slow. I think their decision-making has been slow. They usually add fewer guys, and so I think they target fewer guys, and you just can't do that. With Jordan Ross, that's a weird one. I mean, you could say Jim Knowles wants bigger edge rushers.
Yeah.
That could have been a little bit of it. I don't think that's quite it, though. They targeted some of the best edge rushers. They get the edge rusher from Alabama. They're trying to line up to bring in right now in the next couple of days. So they're targeting guys that maybe told him, "Hey, you may not be the surefire starter." That could have, been a little bit of it, but I think he wanted more money. I think he made a big swing. He knew he had some leverage, and Tennessee said, "We'll give you more money. We're not giving you that much more money." And I think he'll find it elsewhere. Maybe at LSU, maybe at Miami, but I think he'll find it elsewhere.
Talking to Adam Sparks of Knoxville News Sentinel. Adam, speaking of guys that were on campus, the number one quarterback in the portal, Sam Leavitt, visited Knoxville yesterday, according to some reports. Obviously, this is a guy that's been around town throughout the portal. He visited Kentucky, visited Texas Tech, visited LSU. Now he's in Knoxville. Is there any validity to the idea of him potentially being the Vols' next quarterback?
Yeah, he absolutely could be. It's a weird situation because, I mean, there's almost like a swipe left, swipe right approach to a lot of these things. I love you, but I've got somebody else on the other line that I love more, and it depends on if they're answering the call or not. I mean, we saw that with Lane Kiffin, right? I want Sam Leavitt. Oh wait, Damon Williams is hopping in the portal.
Hey, Sam, go get me some popcorn while I have an important text here with someone.
That's right. So, I mean, with Leavitt, I think, he went to Kentucky. I don't think he was ever going to go to Kentucky. I think he was just biding time a little bit. And then he gets to LSU, and it seemed like he's into LSU. They're into him, but both of them kind of seemed like plan Bs to each other. Oregon is still, we don't know what that situation. We would assume they're going to have a vacancy at quarterback. Oregon. So if they do, then he's from there. He's from Oregon. I think the thought with him is that he's sort of, slow playing this, seeing if Oregon is going to be open, and then he can go home. But he likes the possibility of Tennessee. He likes the possibility of LSU. So I think a guy for him that's waiting around this long, and then money comes into it too. If you get down to the end of the portal, let's say he's asking for $4 million, does that suddenly become $6 million? Who has the more leverage in that situation? So yes, Tennessee could get him. I think Tennessee is one of maybe 3 or 4. I think the difference with Tennessee is I don't think they have as good of a plan B as maybe they would want.
Yeah, and the Oregon thing, of course, is really interesting and I guess potentially troubling. Do you feel like there's any way like Tennessee could, I guess, make an offer he can't refuse to get him to like commit before he wait? Because obviously, if Oregon beats Yeah, I mean, I think if Oregon beats Indiana, that probably increases the likelihood of Dante Moore leaving. I would think it's probably a pretty high likelihood anyway, given where he's projected. But then you're waiting more for any sort of final word. So that's one. And then also, if they don't get him, I mean, look, they obviously have two good young options, but like, do you expect no matter what for them to at least have someone out of the portal as a veteran at that position?
Yeah, they're going to get somebody. They're not going to just have two guys. I mean, the question is, who do they get if they don't get Levitt? And now somebody else could hop into the portal. We just saw that with Damon Williams. And so don't discount that possibility. There's still some time to do that. But I mean, if you look at the guys that are in there now, I mean, of the top 20, I think it's something like 16, 17 of the top 20 have already been taken, or I'm sorry, committed, and that doesn't mean signed. So they could still get somebody. I think if you don't get Levitt, you start to get more and more closer to the possibility that they bring in a guy who can compete with George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, as opposed to a guy that just comes in as the surefire starter. And we talked about anxiety at the start of the call. I just get the sense over there that there's less anxiety about quarterback than there is defense. And I think that's a lot of the belief in Josh Heupel and that system. I think the fact that they got Joey Aguilar and made him into the SEC's passing leader this year kind of gives them some confidence. They feel like they can figure that out. They do need another quarterback. And I think they need somebody who's more ready than George McIntyre or Faison Brandon. But they still got time and they got money, and we'll see. But defense, it's a weird thing. They need one quarterback, but they need a lot of defense, and so they're having to sort of juggle those two things at once.
Adam, Tennessee did get a portal ad yesterday. They got Kayan Lee from Auburn. His career stats so far: 31 tackles, 4 pass deflections, and 3 interceptions in his tenure at Auburn. What kind of a bolster does that guy add to the secondary in Tennessee?
Well, I mean, it was a need, and sometimes we overuse that term, but it was absolutely a need. I mean, I was looking at the depth chart yesterday before they got him, and I was looking at what potentially would be their starting lineup, like if they played tomorrow, and it ain't good. I mean, it's not great talent wise, but it's especially not good depth wise. And at corner, I mean, you had Ty Redmond and you had Trey Poteet, who played his first major action in the Music City Bowl. And you just can't go into a year, with that big a question mark at corner. And then, they got a safety a few days ago. They still don't have a nickel unless Lee plays nickel. So, they still got to add a number of guys in the portal in the secondary. But that does fill the role of, again, if you played tomorrow, you have Ty Redmond and you have a multi-year starter in the SEC and Lee. I mean, he started for 2.5 years at Auburn. He played reasonably well. They've had a lot of success with just bringing in corners in the portal and making them work, and sometimes making them, become first-round picks. They've done that a couple times. So it absolutely fills a need. They can just check that box. Need a starting corner, done. And so it allows them to move on to other things.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel. There is no off season for Adam Sparks, although I guess at some point you will probably travel to Australia or New Zealand or something, right? Like in the spring or something. Do we have a big trip planned? Do we going somewhere this year?
London and Paris, and that's in the middle of spring practice when they're off, not when they're practicing.
Look at you.
And then Greece, Italy, Germany. I think in summer. I think.
Oh, my goodness, the world traveler.
The itinerary is managed by somebody else, but
no, I understand. And you guys are going to find the Vols bar in every single one of these countries too. So I have no doubt about that.
If there's one, she'll find it. I assure you.
Yes, she will. Adam Sparks, thanks, my friend. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you.
All right, Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel. We'll react to that, and if anybody has any, travel suggestions for him on any of those spots, you can chime in there. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. 94.9 The Fan is your home for Vanderbilt women's basketball tonight. The Commodores take on Missouri at Memorial Gym at 6:30. Pregame begins at 6:15 on 94.9. And, of course, Jake Lyman on the call there. Catch that. Also, I'd say you could listen to that while you're in Memorial Gym. You don't want to miss that show. I mean, Michaela Blake's alone worth the price of admission. Pretty special stuff going on in Memorial Gym this year. So on the Vols football front, Connor, how concerned are we about the lack of portal activity, which, as Adam pointed out, and probably needs to be reminded every year, it is Heupel's philosophy. He is wanted to, and I think Heupel has looked. I mean, you look at Georgia. Georgia now, they have recruited at a high level in high school football, and so that's, if you can do that, and then you supplement with the portal, that's been a great formula.
Yeah,
but also I think that I think Heupel does need to adjust a little bit, and maybe, as Adam said, be a little bit quicker at times with some of these things. But what's the concern level, and I guess how important is Sam Levitt to this 2026 team?
I understand the frustration. I mean, he's posting pictures of him recruiting 2-star cornerbacks in Martin, Tennessee, and I guess he was out there trying to get Ty Simpson as well, and we all know how that went. He's going to the NFL. So I would say getting Sam Levitt is very important as far as the team next year. It's either that or get someone else out of the portal who's not nearly as talented, or you can start George McIntyre. You're not going to start Faison Brandon as a true freshman. I don't think he's good enough to do that. Maybe even if he is the top quarterback in that class, I don't think he's good enough to start right out of the gates like that. And that's the key to building a quarterback in college football, is especially with the portal now, you can bring in some veteran leadership, develop them over a year or two, and then they'll be ready to go when their time is coming. But I think it is important to get Sam Levitt, especially knowing the caliber of player he is. You mentioned it earlier, Joe. You really like him. I really like him. I think he's an SEC caliber quarterback. It's a matter of, if you can get him, okay, how can you build off of that? Can you get more receivers in here? Because you're losing Chris Brazzell. You're going to lose some key production in your wide receiver room. You've lost some running back in Peyton Lewis. It's a matter of, can you build your offense around that guy? And look, Adam mentioned it as well. New guys are hitting the portal every single day. This isn't just, oh, you have one day to go, and then that's it. If you don't get them, you don't get them. No, the new guys are hitting the portal every day, and things are in line with each other. So I think they're going to be okay as far as portal recruiting. Like you said, this is Heupel's philosophy. Starts out a little slow, and then they're all happy with him by the end. So I think he'll be okay. I think Sam Levitt is very important to getting this started.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get some more guys for sure, and it'll look better at the end. But you don't know. But if Levitt's off the market, it's pretty thin out there right now. I mean, yeah, somebody else could shake free, but it may not happen. Now, last year there was no excitement when they got Joey Aguilar, and that was their. I mean, they went after a bunch of guys, and they tried to pry guys from their teams. Now, that was also a different time when you could do that in the spring, which is different now, right?
Yeah.
So, they were trying to get Luke Altmaier out of Illinois and a few other guys who have already eluded my mind. But, they eventually settled on Joey Aguilar. It worked out really well. But there's no guarantee you're going to get that either. Even like the sort of way down the list guy who's going to come in and play as well as he did. So I think it would be huge for them. I love Sam Levitt. I think his running ability, I think his skill set fits the offense, but I think he'd really be he'd give them a big add in that way. So that would be big. But the Oregon thing, it makes sense. It makes sense for him to go around, you check out other places, get everybody excited, drive that price up a little bit. And then, I mean, if you're Oregon, and I don't know off the top of my head, just like the other day, we're talking about Alabama, and it's like, oh yeah, Keelan Russell, Bama fans are telling us, right. So that makes sense with the Ty Simpson thing. I don't know if there's anybody waiting in the wings at Oregon who, like, they would feel comfortable just handing off to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were all in on Sam Levitt. No, if Dante Moore goes, and it's just, I mean, Nick Baumgartner has him going first. He thinks he's going to go before Mendoza. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
But I think he's second.
Yeah, I think New York would take a chance.
So, I mean, if you're going to go that high, you're going to go, right? 4, 5, 6 million, that's great. I mean, that's where the market is for the top college quarterbacks, but it's still, if you're picked in the top 5 in the draft, that's still a much better. That's what you're going to do. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think some of this stuff is Vols fans panicking. I understand some of it, and look, they're not happy with Josh Heupel right now, and I get that too.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is from the product he put on the field last year, and it's believable. You're upset with his coaching philosophy, and you're upset with everything about that. His clock management, his offensive style, his defensive style. You're upset with that. So this just kind of adds to it. But I think this is going to be a standard Vol procedure. In once it rains, it pours, and maybe not to the level of, oh my God, we've won the transfer portal lottery. But I think if you get Levitt, then tensions will start to ease up a little bit. More commitments will follow through. And overall, I think you'll build a pretty decent roster heading into next year.
All right, we come back. Preds with a big one tonight at home against the Islanders. We will talk to Andrew Burnett, Nashville Predators coach. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rex Show, 102.5 The Game. Connor Newt in for Robby Stanley today. Happy to bring in our next guest, Preds coach Andrew Burnett, who I'm sure is happy to be home. This segment with Andrew Burnett brought to you by Aero Exterminators. Going beyond the call, Aero Exterminators, proud partner with the Nashville Predators. Andrew, I mean, I know you guys were able to probably come back after Minnesota, but this is an extended road trip. How is it to be back and away from like -30 or whatever the heck it was in Edmonton?
Morning, guys. Happy New Year. It's been a while. Yeah, no, we've kind of been all over the place, starting from Minnesota and then come back for a few days and kind of hit every spot from, Vegas, Utah to Northern Canada. And yeah, it's nice to be back for sure.
How would you assess, overall a successful trip? I know it didn't end the way you wanted to, but successful trip on the ice. How would you assess it? And I know sometimes those trips are really good for teams and turn into maybe some opportunities even, for guys to hang out more and things like that. Like how do you look at the whole thing now that it's done?
Well, I think it was for us, a lot of times those trips are a little bit of a team bonding. You're kind of all together through a stretch of games or weeks, actually. You have your rookie party and you do these things that the guys get together and it's really good for team bonding. It can go either way. I've been on some of them. Fortunately, I think for our group, we just became tighter. But I thought sometimes it can go a little, astray when you're in tough buildings every night and you never know which way it's going to go, especially as a coach. But after you go through it, just like everything else, you feel tighter as a group. And, we did some good things and a little disappointed a little bit at the end of the last game. But for us, it was a good road trip.
Coach, tonight you guys are in action against the New York Islanders. Obviously, your first game back home. That's a team with some good goaltending. Ilya Sorokin, David Riddick, a couple of good goaltenders on their end. How can you guys look to attack the goal and put some pucks in the back of the net tonight?
Well, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for us, especially coming off these trips as a coach. You're always a little worried about the first game back from an extended trip. And, we didn't get in until about 5 yesterday. So, kind of a sleepless night at times for your coach. But the Islanders are playing really well. Obviously, they're coming off a 9-0 win against Jersey a couple of nights ago, and they've been going pretty good all year. I think probably a little bit different team that we've seen in the past from them. The way they've been putting up goals, and they're playing a fast game right now. So it's going to be a challenge like every night in the NHL. The margins every night, the parity in the league. If you look through the standings and if you watch games every night, they're basically 1-goal games, and we'll get into a 1-goal game here today. And the one thing with our group is we've been kind of battle tested in that situation. Even got away from us in the Oiler game the other night, but it was 1-0 with about 4 minutes left in the second. So that'll be the type of game it's going to be, and we have to be prepared and mentally, especially with our mindset going into tonight. All kinds of different variables for us. It's like another road game. We got to treat it like our last road game of our trip. And, that's kind of our mindset here coming in.
Talking with Preds coach Andrew Burnett. Yeah, well, you just hit on what I was going to ask you about, Andrew, that, the standings, like you said, it's and obviously in the West, Colorado is having just an insane season, and Dallas is also, up there. Now, of course, you guys have had success too against those teams. So I wonder, one, how that, I guess, plays into confidence. But when you look at the standings, it's everyone's so bunched together right now. You guys would only be 6 points out of, being first in the Pacific. You're in a huge glut with a bunch of teams. Where do you think you are now relative to the rest of the West?
Well, I think we're excited to be where we are. It's been the grind, obviously, to get to the spot. So it's nothing but excitement with our group that we've climbed ourselves back into this race. I think it's great for hockey. It's great for fans. It's great for all the different cities that we're all in it. And when you're in it, there's no better feeling and to play hockey is that these games and these points matter every night. And like I said, we're grateful we're able to get ourselves into this position. So let's enjoy it. And it's awesome to be playing hockey right now and to be in this kind of race.
Coach, I'm curious on your thoughts on the play of your veterans in the lineup, particularly Steven Stamkos and Philip Forsberg. Those are guys that I feel like, I'm sure you feel the same way, have come on as the year has gone on. What kind of a momentum factor do you think those two provide to your team?
Well, they're game changers for our group. When they're going, makes our group extremely dangerous. I think they've kind of got us back into this race, especially over the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks that we played, where their game and their production's really picked up. More than anything else for me is a coach is appreciate the leadership skills that they brought to this group. And without those leadership skills, we wouldn't be in the position we are right now where we're fighting. They hung in there. They stayed with it. They stayed all in, even when things weren't going, especially offensively as planned. They didn't change their personalities. They came to the rink every day and they worked. And I think as a coach, you're very appreciative of that. And to see them get success here, especially of late, as a coach, there's no greater joy to see those guys that put in the work, that stayed with it, that were character leaders have some success right now and get rewarded for it. So they've been instrumental to say the least to where we're at right now. And now we got to keep going regardless where we're at. We got to keep paddling here.
Yeah. I mean, with Stamkos in particular, Andrew, the 600, the 600 goal and the heater he's been on, it just seemed like that was such a rallying point for the guy. Like, how much has that been just as an energy boost to see him, go like he's been going and then also reach that milestone?
Yeah, I think, for our whole group, I think it gave us energy. I think you could see the joy of when we got a 600 from our whole team. And we're very, very aware, I think all of us, the teammates, coaches, that he was getting close. And to see him do it and the way that he's been playing to do it and how he's kind of dragged us back in this fight, I think it makes it, I guess all the more a little bit rewarding for everybody. But yeah, it definitely gave us energy. I think anytime you play with a player, I've been fortunate enough to play with a couple that get these big milestones. I think it brings excitement to the whole team. And the way he did it. And I think for his teammates to see what he, early in the year when things weren't going quite the way he wanted to do, how his mindset, how he treated people, how he came to the rink every day and worked, how he stayed bought into what the team's doing. It was a team first attitude. I think for our young players to see a player of his stature, a Hall of Famer, go through that and how he handled himself and how he brought himself to the rink every day, I think is just instrumental organizationally for everybody to see.
Coach, I want to ask you about kind of the accountability that goes on in the locker room. Obviously, you guys are happy to be in the place where you are, just a few points out of a wild card spot, looking to compete in the playoffs. But when things go south, kind of like they did the other night in Edmonton, what is the level of, or rather, are you appreciative of the level of accountability that your players show when things get tough?
Yeah, like I said, a little bit of the leadership. I think obviously nobody's happy as we left the building, and I think after the second period to put ourselves in a hole when it was a really good hockey game. We knew, Edmonton with their star players, and they were angry. They lost a few games at home. They were going to, bring everything they had, and there was going to be chaotic moments in the game. And I think, we hung in there and we were in a pretty good spot. And unfortunately, we just, broke a little bit there at the end of the second period, and something we haven't done in a long time. So I think the accountability after the second was I think we've gone through this so many times. I think we're holding each other accountable, not happy kind of what happened. Now, the key for us is, we dragged ourselves back into a little bit in the second, but to get down by 4 on the road is almost impossible to overcome. So I think we're learning from that. To me, that was a great learning moment from our group because we haven't done it for a while. And we got to remember how bad that feels. And that's not where we want to be. That's not who we are. And that's not what we've been. Now, the key for this whole group is how to respond. And we've always responded. And I expect, this is going to be a really hard game tonight. Coming off these trips, I've played in these, I've coached in these. These are tough games. But we're a tough group and we're resilient. And I expect us to learn from what went on, because that's going to happen every night. We just talked about parity. These momentum swings, these little small margins are hockey right now in the NHL, and we've gone through it and we've seen both sides of it. And I think it'll make us better for it. But we can talk all we want. We got to keep going and we got to keep moving forward. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're working every day to get there.
Talking to Pride's coach, Andrew Burnett. Last thing for you, Andrew, I tried to do some math here. I think I'm right on this, but if you take January and the very beginning of February, of course, the Olympic break coming in February, I think it's 18 games in 35 days for you guys. It's right around there. I'm confident I'm within a day or two, but I mean, that type of, and you obviously you do have some older guys in your group. What's the concern level? Where do you think you guys are just in terms of being able to handle that?
Oh, thanks for reminding me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we worry about that all the time. I don't think there's a night that goes by that I don't wake up at 3 a.m. and start worrying about our energy level and where we're at and how many games we are, and then you throw the travel. I think with our group, we're just trying to take it day to day. I know it's a little cliche, but that's the reality of the situation we're in. Every game, like I said, every game in this league's hard. Everybody's kind of going through a similar stretch of games. I think if you look through the league, I bet you there's 95% of the leagues going through exactly the same thing. So that's where it is. And I keep saying to our group, regardless how tired we are, regardless, travel, games, they're all going to be hard. Even if you rested, they're hard. And just accept it. It is what it is. And to me, at the end of the day, I don't care if you played 15 games in a row, and trying the mindset of our group is when the puck's dropped, the puck, regardless, I expect us that the puck's way more important to us than them. And that's kind of our mindset. And it's not always going to work out. And we understand the schedule has some moments in it, but that's our mindset. And we can't look past fatigue or look but our schedule. And we just got to keep grinding. And we've done it so far this year, and we're going to continue to do it. And yes, I worry all the time.
Well, sorry to bring it up, but you guys are grinding, and everybody appreciates it for sure. So, Preds coach Andrew Burnett, thanks so much for the time. Good luck tonight.
Thanks, guys.
All right. And that was Andrew Burnett, brought to you by Aero Exterminators, going beyond the call. Aero Exterminators, proud partner with the Nashville Predators. And we come back. Someone will rant. I'm trying to get Newt to go nuclear, but someone will rant here on Robby and Rexrode 102.5 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Did you accidentally trip into the dark web? Are you all right, buddy?
They love me because I give baby life-saving blood.
Oh, yucking around with Terry Bradshaw forever ago, right? Right.
Go
did you
give
just
blood.
say you give them baby blood?
I would take Manning blood and drip it around the Titans practice field if I could.
I'll have some jalapeno poppers. What do you think, huh?
What are you doing? I say babies. What do you do?
Robby and Rexrode 1025 the game.
And you young kids who don't get that, that's a you problem.
I mean, I really did say Robby and Rexrode. Poor Robby.
Do we need to check on PK? Like, he's got a weird blood obsession.
I mean, there's so much about him that is problematic. I mean, we don't have time today to get into it all. And I really don't even remember. I know you must remember, Ian. What the hell was he talking about there? Why were we talking about it? Blood?
Which part? Baby blood? Or
what was the baby blood stuff about?
Oh, it was about the Red Cross. He was going off about the Red Cross, some donation that they were promoting through the NFL. And then he got an email from the Red Cross saying, hey, we're waiting for your latest donation. And it's because he apparently saves babies with his blood.
Okay, now it kind of rings a bell. Yeah, wow.
I guess he has some type of blood type that is saves babies.
He has an amazing blood type.
Yeah.
Thank you, PK.
Congratulations, PK. This is the Rex Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee, by the way. Heal from the inside out. Check them out, functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. By the way, this is not a rant, but I forgot to say this earlier. But tonight on Totally Hits 93.3, catch MTSU men's basketball as the Blue Raiders take on UTEP, 8 o'clock p.m. Coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. So sometimes are we going is Newt going nuclear, or am I ranting right now?
You can rant.
You're just happy. You're just happy-go-lucky. Everything's great.
It takes a lot.
Everything's great in your life. Okay, that's fine. So a lot of times I do a grab bag thing. My intended rant today, which I still will talk about, is Lane Kiffin. It's so, I mean, and just college football, but Lane Kiffin, I'm just so sick of talking about him. Like, I've had so many rants about Lane Kiffin. Like, there should probably be a limit on how many times you can rant about Lane Kiffin. But just in case anybody missed it, yes, there are 2 assistants who are not going to be on the sideline tonight for Ole Miss against Miami in the semifinals. And as Pete Golden said the other day, hell yes, they want to be here. I mean, it's the height of just ridiculous pettiness. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. And if I were a parent with a kid good enough to play at LSU, either whether a high school recruit or a portal recruit, I mean, you can get paid a lot of places. I don't see how Lane Kiffin isn't hurting himself. And he looks like an absolute jackass. He looks like, and he looks like he couldn't give less of a crap about these players. He claims that he wants to support, and he wanted to coach them, and now he won't let these guys leave to go coach. It's a joke. And I know I've heard some LSU fans say, well, the AD is worried about the tampering. So, okay, well, if that's what this is, that if Ole Miss, let's get that on the record. Because I promise you that none of these coaches want to miss this opportunity. This could be the only time in their careers that they could be playing in a semifinal. That's very possible. It's very possible Lane Kiffin will never get there. I mean, America sure as hell hopes so, other than LSU Nation, right? It's a joke. And then you throw in the Damon Williams thing. Just a perfect encapsulation of Lane Kiffin. He's sitting at a basketball game with Sam Levitt, and we get word right at that moment that, like, Damon Williams leaving Washington. He signed a contract, but he's leaving.
That whole situation is crazy, no?
Yeah.
Washington's like wanting to sue and for breach of contract.
Right.
And there's a buyout for a player of $50 million, something like that.
Okay, I didn't see the 50 million.
I heard there
million.
I heard there was some type of buyout.
Yeah, they're trying to get damages back.
Like if they steal your player after a contract, you have to pay the school. How does that work?
Well, so there is no. So this is, I mean, I think they're trying more to get the money. Trying to get the kid money back from the kid. Right? We see this with Georgia. Yeah, 50. I don't know where you got 50 million. If
Okay,
that's
maybe
yeah.
it was maybe I thought I heard that.
I think
on
he signed a
the way
contract.
in.
Now, if there's 50, maybe if they're actually trying to sue the school, we have a Wisconsin and Miami of Ohio thing with that, right? Where you're trying to sue for damages. The problem is all these schools don't want to look bad and get into these things, and so then and again, you also have these contracts, which they're very careful in the wording because they don't want it to come off as like they're employees or that it's pay for play. I mean, the entire thing is so freaking dumb. I hope this is a big moment getting to where it has to be, say it for the 10 millionth time. It doesn't have to be everyone being employees, but it has to be collective bargaining. You can be a contract employee and collectively bargain. And until you get to that, we're going to have stuff like this. And when you have Lane Kiffin involved, you're especially going to have someone taking advantage of this and just, again, looking like just the most self-obsessed, all in for himself, couldn't give a crap about anyone else, couldn't give a crap about stepping on anybody else coach in the country. But that's him. There's a bigger picture here with all that stuff. So congratulations, Lane. Again, you made another rant. Must be very exciting for you.
Yeah, I mean, it is. That's my new favorite thing on Twitter right now is watching him quote tweet pretty much anything Ole Miss does ever. And like Trinidad Chambliss, for example, announces he's coming back to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin quote tweets it with whatever the Trinidadian flag or whatever, I guess, claiming he's supporting him, and then everyone just ignores him. It's pretty hilarious.
How long will Lane go claiming victory and success on both programs?
Right.
Like he's in the middle of the season next year for LSU, and he's taking credit for Ole Miss's success the following year. Like at one point, does he turn the page?
Yeah. Well, and now so when he did the 50 million, or I'm sorry, when he did I got 50 million in mind. I'm like 50 million.
50 million.
Sorry, I threw you off on that.
Well, no, somebody on the text line said it's in the contract. I'm like, okay, I've looked at the contract, so now I need to.
I just heard that.
This was on Unsportsmanlike?
I believe so.
About it?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we'll sort that out. But, when he initially tweeted Trinidad Chambliss, the Trinidad Tobago, everyone took that as, oh, he's coming to LSU.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to get him. Now, we'll see if Chambliss even gets this year. He's got Tom Mars and everything, and they're trying to get this year, and it's kind of flimsy. Doesn't mean it won't happen. I mean, there's been other flimsy suits that have prevailed. But, yeah, the fact that he is signing with Ole Miss, like you said earlier, Connor, pretty awesome, actually. Kwan Lacey coming back, pretty awesome. I don't know how you don't root for Pete Golding.
Some of the stuff he's been saying is impressive. Just trying to move on and keep the focus on the players and the team and how they've kind of rallied.
No doubt. And, look, I don't know. Now, Ole Miss fans, maybe this is wishful thinking on their part. I've heard some Ole Miss fans say if you look at Lane, like, when Golding got in there, how much better things got and everything, and he's really the key. Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Could he land the full-time gig?
I'd love to think so. He is.
Yeah, he is.
He's got
That's it. He's got it. Okay, good.
Yeah. So he's going to get his opportunity. I mean, I've already got my hotel next fall for LSU at Ole Miss. I mean, that is going to be a scene.
Make sure you pack your mustard bottles.
Yeah.
And your golf balls.
Pack a helmet. What I'm going to do is a freaking full body, vest. But I actually was going to grab bag and go into the some of the stuff about rigged games, but we didn't have time. Lane, you're just so special. You got me rolling on this stuff, and congratulations to you. Now, when we come back, Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports, we will get into all things NFL with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. All right, third and final hour, Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I'm Joe Rexrode, Connor Newt in today for Robbie Stanley. And as we do every Thursday at this time, happy to welcome in our friend Charles Robinson, covers the NFL for Yahoo Sports, and we are very interested today, Charles, and we can get into some other things, but we're probably going to hit you hard today on Titans coaching search, I guess, overall coaching search in this league. It's that time.
Right.
By the way, is this like, how's this like this week for you and your job? Like, you know, how's this compare to some of the crazier weeks once you start getting these firings and interviews and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the worst weeks this season because it's a league where there's 7-8 firings every single cycle now, and what GMs are going to go with it. And I have an AP vote that's due on Monday that kind of crashes into it pretty hard. So you're trying to get that done. You're trying to figure out what do I want to write about this stuff. Like I'm not a big transactional, like, hey, this guy's going to go interview here, this guy's going to go interview there. I'm more along the lines of, let me try to understand what's going on now in this building and what's important. So like I just wrote about Pete Carroll being fired, but more sort of how everybody we've spent this last year really focusing on Tom Brady, and Tom kind of having a mistake already with Chip Kelly, and how John Spytek now is going to be the guy in the building who's going to have the most influence on a day-to-day basis on, Mark Davis, on whoever the incoming head coach is. And that basically, like, if the Raiders are getting rebuilt, people better start paying attention to this guy rather than just assuming that Tom Brady's going to be doing it from far away.
So on the Titans front, Charles, first of all, we I think, at least on this program, I can't speak for anybody else, but we have basically just dismissed the idea that John Harbaugh would even give a look toward Nashville. Like, am I off base on that? Is there a chance, Charles? We put it at 5% that he would even interview.
Well, he's definitely not going to interview with everybody, and I think he's going to get requests from everybody. And I definitely think he's gotten his agent's gotten some contact from a couple of teams that have head coaches in place right now. And I think just from a baseline, every time a coaching search starts, particularly when it starts for someone who is going to have a lot of options, you sit and you go, okay, let me look at the ownership, situation. How stable has ownership been over the years? What's the support like? What are the finances inside the operation? Is everything all up to date technology wise? Is there any skimping that happens? Can you choose your entire coaching staff? Have they stayed out of meddling with those decisions? What's the front office look like? That's one thing with Harbaugh that I think is going to be important is, it worked in Baltimore between he and Eric DeCosta, and obviously Ozzie Newsome prior to DeCosta. But, over the years, you would hear at times that John was a little frustrated that he wanted a little more influence in the front office. And that he got a consigliere at one point, it kind of helped him have a little bit more input. I would presume where he chooses to go, he's going to want I think he'll want the 53, and I think he'll want some juice in the draft pick process as well, like the players that are ultimately going to get selected. I don't know that he'll necessarily have to have final say on that, but I really truly believe he's going to want to have the 53. And then the quarterback situation. So I guess I would just say to Titans fans, you sit down and look at it, and what frustrated Mike Vrabel and when he went out, what were the things that he did not like about the organization? I would say those would map pretty consistently with John Harbaugh. He's a similar personality to Mike. He coaches guys really hard. He can be difficult to be around at times. He's very good forward facing though. Like, not a lot of people, they all assume that, Jim Harbaugh's the crazy one and John's the much more, kind of jovial, teddy bear. He's not at all. And, so again, if Vrabel's leaving for a certain set of reasons that are frustrating him, and those reasons would presumably exist if John were to go in, then you probably would cross the Titans off the list. That's what I would presume. Now, I say that, and let's see how this all stacks up, because there might be other teams out there. I mean, I think the Giants would turn over everything to them. I think when you talk about teams that currently have head coaches, I wonder. Stephen Ross went to Michigan. Obviously Jack Harbaugh coached there in the 70s for a number of years when John was going to Ann Arbor Pioneer. Jim, his brother, obviously coached Michigan. I think all the Michigan ties, and Stephen Ross owning the Dolphins, I would not be surprised if Stephen Ross is not reaching out to an intermediary saying, hey, we don't have a GM here right now. And I think a lot of John, and would this be something that he would potentially consider? The only problem is he's a massive problem on the roster right now with Tua. I mean, it's just from a salary cap standpoint, it looks pretty frightening. So for him to even take that job, I think they would fire Mike McDaniel. He'd have to get, the 53 element of personnel control in what I think might even be helping to choose his general manager. And then, it would have to be like a Sean Payton situation where you're like, okay, we're going to pull the trigger on this quarterback and we're going to go through the salary cap, swamp for 2 years and hope that we can get this turned around in that time. But really, it's going to be hard to know where exactly his favorites are until next week sort of stacks up. And I think he would probably end up interviewing with maybe 3 or 4 teams. It might not even be 3 or 4. It might be sort of a, Andy Reid situation when he departed Philly and Kansas City, swooped in and grabbed him immediately.
Okay. So, let me follow up then, because I hear what you're saying just on specifically on the Titans front, because I hear what you're saying on the things mapping out and sort of like, okay, these issues, how many candidates out there are scared away by the Titans and what has gone on in recent years with ownership, with the front office constantly changing what they are and this title and that title. And then also, is Cam Ward promising enough, at least for some people, to maybe overcome that?
Well, start with Cam. That's going to be in the eye of the beholder. It's just, you never know. Whatever, different coaches are going to look at him different ways, right?
Right.
And so I can't speak to what the candidate feel. You would literally have to go from one candidate to the next and just say, hey, give me your thoughts on, go sit down, watch some Cam Ward tape and tell me what you walk away thinking, and maybe go back to, if you did any work on him going into the draft, what did you think? And sort of get that assessment. I think Cam acquitted himself well enough, particularly down the stretch, in terms of the growth that he showed, that some people shouldn't be like alarmed. Oh no, this guy's, not at all what we thought we were getting. But still, I think those assessments are really ultimately going to be important. Like, is when we've talked in the past about, like, when Sean McVay was brought in by the Rams, he looked at Jared Goff and he said, yeah, I believe in that guy. I think I can coach that guy. Here's all these things I think I can do with him. And it worked for a while. And then when it didn't, Sean was like, all right, we're making this change. It's not working anymore. So that, that's something that could also be in play. But in terms of in terms of the candidates being scared away, I'll say it, like the ownership situation and how the turnover has gone over the, last several years is troubling. Definitely. How things kind of dissolved between John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, how the Rand Carthon thing went, who reports to who, how this is how the structure is going to look. And then, a year later, it's like, no, this is how the structure is going to look. I just think that's very few high tier candidates with a lot of options are ultimately going to want to step into that kind of a situation. And I'm not going to lie, like, there are people who look at Mike Vrabel leaving and then ending up in New England with a roster that at the time looked pretty poor. I mean, there were a lot of questions. Now they spent money, and it turns out that some of the pieces were better than I think we ultimately thought. But to have the success that he's had, even with a crap schedule, facing a crap schedule, I think that raises people's eyebrows. I think people are like, okay, that's not. And I told you then, we had this big fight back when Vrabes went out the door. I told you guys, like, he is not viewed as a really quality coach across the league by other coaches.
You did say he was going to get 2 first-round picks. I'm just saying.
Well, would he have been worth it?
Well, he probably would have been, I guess.
Probably would have been worth those 2 first-round picks for a team had they jumped on him and not given it up and given it up. But I think, when someone gets fired from a team and coaches are like, what? Like, what? And I think if you're Baltimore, there's a little bit of that now. I think there's some coaches going, why didn't that work there? Like, there's got to be some explanation for why John Harbaugh didn't work out in Baltimore, but they also have Lamar Jackson, which is an extremely enticing player, I think, for certain, set of coaches who want to go in and coach that kind of a quarterback. So I would say the track record is something that's going to hurt the Titans a little bit. How much? We'll see. It depends. I think you could probably, some of the coordinators that I think they're looking at, like, Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh still managed to come out of the Jets, rehab his image, although I don't think it was really hurt as much with the Jets as people think, because people know what the Jets are. But a coordinator on the level of Saleh, I think, the Titans could be in his wheelhouse. An interesting one because he was sort of the belle of the ball, and then John gets let go, and it's like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of big options here that we now are staring at when you're talking about other franchises.
Talking to Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports. Charles, you kind of alluded to what I was going to ask you in terms of the guys the Titans are looking to interview, like Robert Saleh and Matt Nagy. When it comes to interviewing those guys, would it make sense for the Titans to go in with this dual mindset of, yes, we're looking at you for head coach, but we're also comfortable looking at you for a coordinator position?
Yeah, I mean, if it's coordinators who currently have jobs, obviously they need to not have play calling duties. So, but yeah, if you're interviewing coordinators who don't have play calling that are currently on teams, yeah, absolutely. There's no question. You keep that in the data bank. And in terms of the ones that, don't have jobs, I mean, it's the same. I think it's the same setup. Yeah, I think everybody goes into head coaching interviews and always, I would say almost every franchise thinks that way, that, hey, look, if we really like this, candidate, but they turn out to not be what we think is the exact right fit for the head coaching spot. Is there, some ability here to still get that, individual onto the coaching staff of the next head coach? But the next head coach will also play a part in that, right? If you're hiring an offensive head coach and that offensive head coach says, well, no, I want play calling duties when I go in. Hard to then sell to another offensive coordinator that you're making a lateral move when the head coach coming in is starting off with play calling duties.
So Nagy apparently also interviewing with the Ravens per Ian here. So that's interesting. Okay, so let me boil that down, Charles, on the Titans front. There's a lot of, I think, presumption with Nagy here because of the history with Mike Borgonzi. So, and he was the first guy announced and all that stuff. And so I think, some people, of course, the Titans last week announced like Borgonzi has full control and they've switched it up again. And we don't even have time to get into all that. But some people were like, oh, so Nagy's going to be the guy, which I didn't necessarily buy. I mean, I think obviously he knows more about him than our candidates, but this hire is like, this is Mike Borgonzi's job. So I think he's going to do his due diligence. But if it were you, knowing what you know about Nagy, because I hear from Chicago people, oh my God, you guys have no idea. It was such a bleep show. Yeah, the first year, coach of the year, and then it went downhill so bad. You do not want anything to do with this guy. And even from some media who cover the Bears. And then you have Stefanski, and I'd want to make sure we hit some Cleveland stuff so we can get you on Cleveland radio today. If you were looking at those two guys, just those two, because I do feel like that, like you said, I mean, those are obviously, like, I think, real possibilities to the Titans. Who would you prefer based on all that you know about those two guys?
I think I would lean more into Kevin Stefanski, only because I know, look, it was rough, for Nagy in Chicago. Now that said, you go 12-4. They weren't all of a sudden, it wasn't a situation where it's like, 3-13 the next year. I mean, they went 8-8 the next two seasons. I think they definitely underachieved. And I also think that was part of the frustration down the stretch for the fan base, where it's like, hey, we're 12-4, and you're thinking, this is it. We got we got the coach in the fold who's going to take us somewhere. You lose your playoff game, and then next thing you know, you're 8-8. And I think people forget the 2020 season, they were 8-8 and went in the playoffs again. Also lose that one. But I think a lot of that was just frustration that Nagy, again, quarterback spot was very, very underwhelming. And a lot of people thought, Nagy's going to come in here and this is going to be like, the Chiefs. It's going to be like a Chiefs setup and we're going to have that. Well, it's pretty unrealistic. But that said, I look at Stefanski and I just think Kevin was in the middle of a mess constantly, in Cleveland. And I think he did really well when you go back and you look at when Baker was healthy. And I think had Baker not had the highs and lows and then the health issue prior to them moving on from him, I think there's a chance that they put that all together there. And Baker's still there, and this is a whole different conversation, and they don't chase Deshaun Watson. Then I think he fell prey to, once the Deshaun Watson decision was made, and I don't think he had any issue coaching Deshaun Watson. I think he was on the same page as Andrew Berry and everybody else in the organization being excited about it. I don't think he realized kind of what was happening with Deshaun. Emotionally, physically, like what's going on in the field. It was just immediately the struggle was a little bit stunning. And then unfortunately they got to the point where a couple of years in, if the contract had been done the way I think people in the building wanted it done, and it was not done this way because of ownership, there would have been, okay, we can cut him. Like he's going to get, 3 years of guaranteed money out of us. We get past year 2 and this is extremely concerning and it looks like it's not going to work. We could potentially cut him, before year 3 and we'll split that hit. We'll do a post June and it'll hurt, but, there was just never that trap door to really get out of it. Plus they started, taking money out of Sean's contract and spreading it down the line so that they can continue to sign, players in free agency. I think he had a lot of bad luck, from an injury standpoint. I think the same for Andrew Berry, had a lot of bad luck, probably would have liked to go a different way with the Deshaun situation when it came terms to how the contract was done and whether he would have been cuttable. But I think, look, when they've been healthy and they've gotten some good quarterback play, Kevin's won Coach of the Year. I know some people don't care about Coach of the Year, but it does matter. He also went to Pittsburgh and won a playoff game for Cleveland. Okay. Like there's stuff there. And when you talk to people around the league about Kevin as well, there's still a very high opinion of him, even through everything that's gone on. It reminds me a little bit of Saleh, coming out of the Jets. There's still a high opinion of Saleh coming out of there, with most people looking at the backdrop of the franchise he was in and saying, okay, we can see a lot of the downside here and what you had to deal with. I think, Kevin gets the same sort of, I don't want to say a mulligan, but he certainly gets some grace when it comes to what was going on in the organization. I also think people know this season in particular, I think he wanted Flacco there longer than he was. I think he wanted to try to compete with a veteran longer than ultimately they did. And for whatever reason, that decision went the other way and he had to make the best of it.
Charles, in terms of teams currently in the playoffs, I think there are a couple of teams competing that I wouldn't say their coach is necessarily on the hot seat, but they can quickly dive into that and maybe even make a move, like the Packers or even the Bills. If that's the case, and let's say the Packers decide to move on from LaFleur or the Bills decide to move on, are there guys out there? I know you said you're not situational in terms of coaching searches, but Are there guys out there you think would make sense for those teams?
For the Packers and the Bills?
Yeah, just for those as examples.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills, if you ask me, like, oh, give me the John Harbaugh potential landing spots, I would say the Giants are very much there. And I would say that I think the Bills, that's another team where it's sort of like waiting to see what happens. Like, Sean McDermott obviously has a good record, but he's like 0-5 on the road in the playoffs. And that's rough. If he goes 0-6 and you're sitting there and you're going, Josh Allen wasn't MVP this year, but he had a really damn good year. How long are we going to, continue to squander this? We need to make a change, and we need to go get someone who can walk right in, that is, turn the key as a culture guy, coach is tough. So I would think that Buffalo, if they were to make a change, I think that Harbaugh might be the only guy, frankly.
Harbaugh and Monken, right? I mean, would that be obviously Monken
Monken would go.
Yeah. Good stuff with Lamar. I think he would do some good stuff with Josh Allen.
Well, not only that, I think some of the frustration inside the franchise this year for Baltimore was Lamar and Todd. So, I don't know that Todd is sticking around with the Ravens, and I would presume, that where John goes, Monken would go as well, and I think that's actually a pretty good fit. Packers, I'm less certain of who would ultimately end up in that spot, and I think that's it's partially because you don't have an owner of the team, so it's always like, what does the search look like? Who's really being is Brian Gutekunst going to be the person who ultimately taps that next head coach? I personally think Matt, even if they lose, let's say, they don't advance, they lose their first game, I still think Matt gets another year. I think, given the concussion late with Love, some of the things we saw with Malik Willis when he got on the field, the way they were playing when Micah Parsons went down, it's just hard for me to believe the organization sits there and goes, man, it was all Matt. It was Matt LaFleur's problem. So what? We lost clearly our best defensive player who made a world of difference on our defense. So what? We had, injuries over the course of the season, not massive injuries to Jordan Love, but things that lingered and bothered him, and I think suppressed some of the performance. So what? Malik Willis got on the field and looked amazing. Does that not go? That's a favorable thing on his ledger, that he had a backup quarterback that he could win games with. So, I think it's, we'll see in Green Bay. I know Rossi hates that, but,
no, he's full. He thinks he's getting an extension, so he's absolutely miserable about it. Talking to Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports. Last thing for you, Charles. I kind of shifting back to the Titans, and another guy who people are talking about is Cliff Kingsbury, which to me is one of those, interview him as a head coach, and then obviously, the OC thing maybe materializes like it did with Matt LaFleur when they hired Vrabel. But I'm just wondering on the Washington front, I look at that situation. It's like, last year he was the toast of the town, and Jaden Daniels is healthy, and it's hard to look at that and not say he did a heck of a job with a admittedly talented rookie quarterback, but a team that signed a bunch of short-term free agents. And I just thought he was a big part of the success. This year, it's mostly Marcus Mariota playing quarterback, and Kingsbury gets blamed. Is there something more to that than just looking for a scapegoat because things didn't go well this year?
Well, I would ask. So I think the question there is, how much did the injuries, and you can make a very strong argument that they were the root of it all. How much did injuries really impact the offensive fade in Washington? And I think what you're worried about is when Cliff was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, there were definitely some highs, but you would see seasons would get undone because they would just fade. The second half of seasons, you'd be like, what is going on? Why do they fade down the stretch? And once he was out of Arizona and replaced by Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford as the general manager, you heard from players like immediately, like, yeah, man, it was a little bit of a country club, atmosphere previously. Like there was definitely some things that were, sliding that are absolutely not sliding now. And I mean, you can argue, you can say, well, geez, it's manifested in nothing. The changes really for the Cardinals, and they fired their head coach, so maybe Cliff wasn't the problem there either. But I think when Jaden Daniels was healthy, the running back, and again too, that's another thing I think you should notice about Cliff and Washington. They still need pieces. Like they weren't done. They weren't like a finished. It was crazy because I went through there in preseason and I was in camp and I was talking to one of their executives and I said, man, I think the worst thing that happened to you was going to the NFC title. And he looked at me like, I didn't even punch me. Like it was just, he did not like that. And I said, just hear me out. I think your guys played over their head, which is great. It's awesome, that the coaching staff could raise the level of play, that Jaden Daniels could spark the team and cover up for some things. But, and I just straight up said to him, I said, I think this year's going to be, a little more difficult because some of those things can't always be covered up. And that's, I think, what you ultimately saw. And I think, Cliff and the offense suffered from some of that too. They didn't have a real dominant running back. You're still counting on Zach Ertz as your tight end. And frankly, is he producing? Yes. But you spent a second round pick on Ben Sinnott and who came into the league with an offensive repertoire that was really impressive in college. And you're like, he was like buried on it was like, you're not even going to try with this guy. You're not going to try to develop him at all. The wide receivers were very, very underwhelming other than Terry McLaurin, which is part of the reason why Terry McLaurin had the leverage that he had coming into the season was because, James going to be thrown to a bunch of really second, third, fourth string guys. And then ultimately the Jaden Daniels injury, I almost wonder if inside the organization there was a little bit of could we have protected him a little bit better over the course of the season and maybe not have him replicating some of the off script runs, RPO things where he was putting it on his shoulders. Maybe that's what helped to contribute to him getting injured. I don't know how much of that gets put on Cliff. I think Cliff's talented. I think worst case scenario, he ends up as another quarterbacks coach. Maybe he ends up as a college coach. I think if he sticks in the NFL, he will end up being an OC again. I don't know if he'll be right out of the box, but I don't think his career's done from a coordinator position.
Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports. As always, we thank you. Get some rest. Big weekend ahead.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. And tell Robbie I hope he feels better.
Sounds good. Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports. When we come back, we will react to Charles. And we have 3 new names that are official for the Titans coaching interview process. We'll get into that too. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. The Game Nashville Sports Network. Let me try that again. On Robby and Rexrode. The Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for college football playoff. Tonight, following the Vanderbilt women's basketball game on 94.9 The Fan, catch number 10 Miami against number 6 Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. It's a semifinal college football playoff coverage on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Welcome back into Robby and Rexrode. Joe Rexrode here, Connor Newt in for Robby, Ian Safar producing. Good segment there with Charles Robinson. Let's go to the Titans coaching search because we have 3 new names. And I don't see who got this, who came in first on this by a second or two.
Maybe Paul might have.
Did PK?
I think he might have.
Did he get the scoop? Did he scoop Rappaport and Schefter on this?
They were all really pretty close. I think I saw Paul's first, and then I saw Rap Sheet, and then I saw Schefter.
Let's give credit to Paul. He's a fragile baby man, so we want to make sure that that Paul gets his credit.
He saves babies,
and he's a man baby man who also has blood for babies. Good job, Paul. His 3 candidates he's reporting that the Titans request interviews with: Arthur Smith, no surprise; Robert Saleh, no surprise; and Jeff Hafley, who I think also is intriguing. I think Jeff Hafley is intriguing. He's been a college head coach. He's been around. He's very good DC in the NFL with Robbie's Packers. Robby has talked about him a little bit. So those are all good. Those all make sense to me. We've talked very little about Arthur Smith. Where do you come down, Connor, on Arthur Smith?
Arthur Smith to me is one of those coaches that I think is just better off as a coordinator than a head coach. I think the appeal with him coming here is just because he knows the system. He knows what Amy Adams Strunk is like, and he knows how this locker room functions. I think that's kind of just the main appeal, is bringing back a familiar face. I don't think there's any really big chance of him being the head coach. I don't think it makes sense. But, I mean, there are pros to it. He's been a head coach before. He didn't really get an opportunity with a quarterback in his time in Atlanta. It was with Desmond Ridder, and I think that was mainly the front office and ownership telling him, you're riding with Desmond Ridder because that's the guy we drafted. But he doesn't stick out to me like Robert Saleh does or Matt Nagy does or guys like that. I wouldn't hate it, but I wouldn't be head over heels for it.
Yeah, well, look, I'm with you. I don't know if Arthur Smith is going to be a successful head coach at some point. I think he could. It was, kind of underwhelming, although head coaches at Atlanta are kind of underwhelming, and it's not just on them. But, yeah, the whole nose, Amy, that's, to me, just a very overrated factor. I think if you can get just try to get someone you think is better, who has demonstrated that he would be better as a head coach. And I think there are better candidates out there than Arthur Smith. I think it's that simple. Adam in Portland on the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
Joe, what's up, man? Hey, man. Oh, by the way, you're doing a good job in the driver's seat today.
Thank you.
Always like Connor with you. And that's like, this is a problem I got with this whole situation is I don't trust myself with these coaching search, like my feelings on the coaching search stuff, because I can remember when Heupel got hired in Tennessee being real upset about that. And I think he's a great coach. So, and I was one of those guys that's like, oh my God, he sucks. We got somebody from a small school that, whatever. So I don't know. I just don't want Jason Garrett and I don't want Mike McCoy. Other than that, it's fine. Like, I don't even know why they're interviewing those guys. I think it's weird, but just don't give me those names. I think it's going to be Nagy. I think everybody thinks it's going to be Nagy. But it's still disappointing that we can't get somebody like Harbaugh to take us more seriously, which I don't think he is. But I just don't want it to be those other two.
Thank you, Adam. And by the way, I 100% endorse that opinion. I mean, I think we could all agree together on that, right? I mean, obviously Mike McCoy, he's getting a courtesy interview. Like it's funny because it makes Paul mad, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm Jason Garrett. I'm viewing that as a hopeful courtesy interview too, because like Bergonzi's brother coach under. I can't get there. So I'm with Adam on that. And yeah, I agree with the sentiment. It just, we're wrong so often on so many things. These GMs, these owners, these coaches are wrong on so many things. They're so wrong on players so often. People, you just don't. We always look at coaches, Connor, kind of like in a vacuum, in terms of like, what is this coach? What has this coach done? What would this coach do here? But really, it's so much of it is people and how they mesh together and collaborate. Sorry to use that word, but it's true. It's like if you have to have people who can work together well and play off each other and they can maximize each other's strengths. And it's sometimes you just don't know how that is all going to work together until so it's coach, GM, and quarterback,
Yeah. I was about to say players and coaches alike. You want that relationship between player and coach. And especially when you're trying to develop a quarterback, you just took it number 1 overall. That's probably one of the most important factors in finding your next coach.
So I will say today, I think I have shifted a little bit, and I'm excited that they're interviewing Saleh. But I think I'm drifting toward Team Stefanski. I think I might be drifting toward Team Stefanski.
Charles made a pretty good argument this past segment.
He did, and it's just you think about how bad that organization is. And
go through the list of coaches they've hired.
You guys are talking about the list of coaches they've had
since they've come back as the Browns.
And to do what he did,
it's hardcore.
Yeah, to do what he did there. Now, look, they've done a good job. They did a good job of building up a defensive roster. They've done some good stuff to bring in players. They have the best defensive player in the world right now. But yeah, like Charles said, even with Flacco just quarterbacking, they were winning. And I think he's respected, and he seems to have a good demeanor and be able to navigate through a lot of stuff. I mean, like here, Joe Blacko on the YouTube chat says Stefanski ruined Baker. I mean, Baker got hurt. So could you argue, like, should they have not played him? That's fine. There's also sometimes Baker is the type of player who is going to be hard to keep off the field, right?
Yeah.
Now, look, you're the coach, so that's fine, but I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't buy that he quote unquote ruined him. He's not ruined. He's a good quarterback. He got to another place, and obviously the Browns regret that. But I think I'm seeing Team Stefanski from now on.
I mean, I always liked Stefanski. I just like Saleh, but I would be very happy if they hired Stefanski. It would make sense. He's a former head coach. Obviously, we know where he came from. He's capable of leading a historically bad franchise to some victory. So I would be 100% on board with Stefanski.
Yeah, and then you got the play caller. You don't have to worry about losing the OC thing, and I think that could work out. All right, last segment coming up, Robby and Rex. So grab bag, whatever you want to run into. I've got some texts that are bothering me that I'll have to yell at people about. We'll get that next. Robby and Rexrode 102.5 The Game. Final segment, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Connor Newt, who filled in admirably today for Robby. Not Robby. You filled in admirably today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. You'll be back. Well, you'll be back running the late shift tonight, huh?
You'll be a nice nap is in my future.
Yes. All right, so we need to talk Ole Miss Miami, which is of course a national semifinal tonight. I did want to. I'm not even going to get into like the games are fixed stuff today on the text. I think people are just messing with me and trolling me. But someone said that like there was a graphic in the Eagles Saints game on TV that said like Eagles take first lead or something, and then the Eagles scored 2 plays later, which proves that like I guess it's all scripted. I want to know like what kind of fan the NFL got to blow hard from like one side so that Tyler Loop kick went and just veered to the right. That is amazing scripting and fixing of games.
They said, all right, Tyler, we want you to kick it straight.
Yeah.
But somehow make it loop.
Yeah.
That way the emotion of the fan is played on. Yeah, loop it.
Exactly.
Loop the kick, loop.
That is playing to the script, my friend. So now this is an oldie but a goodie real quick, but someone texts in Vrabel tank to get fired. It's so obvious in retrospect. So then I said, okay, yeah, I'm giving you a large eye roll. And then they responded with the quote, enjoy it. It ain't like this everywhere. End quote. He wanted out, and I really don't blame him knowing what we know now. So again, I want to make sure I have this right. So he tanked so that he could not get the Pats job, which went to Gerard Mayo, and that he could not get the Chargers job, which he absolutely wanted, which he finished second to Jim Harbaugh for that job. He tanked. Mike Vrabel, again, go back to the presser where he's like, it sucks, Gentry. Losing sucks. I mean, Mike Vrabel never wants to lose a football game, ever, in his life. It tears at his soul. These are the level of competitors we're talking about here. He's as much of one as anyone. So, no, he did not tank. Now, did he, by the end, was he like, okay, I can see the writing on the wall. I'm sick of this place. I'm sick of Amy. Sure. But tanked, I mean, just like, let's use our brains. Let's try to use our brains. All right. Or if you're just trolling me, good job. It worked again. All right. The game tonight, Connor, what are we looking for? Who do you like?
It's such a toss-up because I heard Jake say this yesterday, and I completely agree. I think Ole Miss has to play their best game to beat Miami tonight, and I don't think Miami needs to play their best game to beat Ole Miss tonight. That said, the chip on the shoulder of Ole Miss right now, I think it's tough to beat them. I think they're playing with such swagger and such poise and such drive just to stick it to that guy out in LSU now that I can't bet against them. I honestly am going to take Ole Miss to beat Miami tonight.
I think I am too, as much as I'm so impressed. What Miami did to Ohio State was impressive. And Miami early in the year, I'm like, they might be the best team, man, with what they have with their defensive front. But I do think that Ole Miss's scheme can neutralize that a little bit. Who's playing better than Trinidad Chambliss?
No one.
The way he played against Georgia was incredible.
Right.
I'm watching him all year, and I'm watching that game, and it's like, again, maybe we missed it. Like, he should have been in New York. Like, and there was some talk of him, but he didn't really get much momentum for that. He was unbelievable. So I'm with you. I think I like Ole Miss. But, Carson Beck, I mean, that's a big question. I thought he did a good job in the last game. He did what you needed to do. I think he's going to need to do a little more than that to win this game. And I think he's capable. And Malachi Toney is incredible.
Yeah.
And, like, they could do it.
True freshman.
But he's unbelievable. But I think I have more belief in Ole Miss and Chambliss right now. And I'll just Pete Golden the whole thing. Who's America's team? Is it Ole Miss or is it Indiana?
I mean, what would happen if that's the national championship? The country will be split. I think it's Indiana still, just because of long-term storytelling. They went from quite literally the worst FBS team in history to now they're national contenders and the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. I think it's still Indiana, but the storyline for Ole Miss has been so much fun to watch, and it's hard to bet against either team. It's certainly a toss-up.
Yeah, I think I'd lean Ole Miss just because I think it's crazy to say this because it's been less than 2 full seasons, but I think people are actually starting to get like sick of it. Like, oh God, that boring national power Indiana, Kurt Signetti. I mean, you're right. It's absolutely absurd. They're only the second losing. They were the losingest team.
They're second now.
Northwestern has passed them again. They're in a hell of a battle with Northwestern with the most losses of all time. But I like what they did to Bama and just Signetti and everything. I think some people are like, no, I don't want them to win.
Yeah.
And look, Oregon, by the way, is a heck of a story because Oregon, I think, is the best program to never have won a national championship. And by the way, I mean, we're going to talk about this tomorrow on the show, but I think Oregon has a good chance to beat Indiana.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I think Indiana's going to win the whole thing.
I think the winner of that game is the national champion.
Okay.
I think Oregon is capable of beating Indiana. I think you add the factor that Indiana beat them earlier in the season. There's a revenge factor in there. And I think they have the talent to do it. But I do think whoever wins that game is going to be favored and is probably better than whoever comes out of the game tonight.
Like we kind of found out this year that Indiana was different, was a clear step above last year's team when they went out to Oregon and took it to them. And, again, like Indiana in the trenches is just, they are that good. So, but tonight, Ole Miss, Miami should be a great one. Vandy women's game, of course. Jake Lyman coming up here with Next Man Up, and he's got the call on that tonight. Lots of great stuff going on. Thanks, Connor Newt. Next Man Up is next. 102.5 The Game.